Vernon Area Public Library. Thank you for joining us. We're pleased to have Audrey Arango from HIAS Immigration and Citizenship presenting tonight's program, Path to Citizenship. Audrey has worked with HIAS since May 2022 as the Outreach and Education Specialist. She's a U.S. Department of Justice accredited representative facilitating educational programs and presentations to help immigrants understand how to become citizens and make better lives for themselves. She oversees HIAS's citizenship and education program, provides cultural orientations, and supports the refugee settlement program in partnership with volunteers to support and welcome refugees. Audrey is originally from Colombia and is bilingual in Spanish and English. Please join me in welcoming Audrey. All right, Audrey, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Corey. Welcome, everybody. I appreciate seeing faces. It makes the presentation easier and it's better to connect with you all. So if you can turn your camera on, we would really appreciate that. So yes, as Corey mentioned, I'm Audrey Arango, and I'm the Outreach and Education Specialist. I've been with the organization for almost 3 years. And I had the privilege to work with amazing people like Judy. Judy is one of our teachers for the citizenship classes. We partner with different libraries, such as Vernon Area Public Library, which we're very thankful. And it's amazing to work with them and just provide this space for everyone to just learn, maybe ask questions. So I'll let Judy introduce herself in a little bit so she can share about the class as well. And then if anybody has questions, please just feel free to unmute yourself, raise your hand, or at the end, or you can actually also type on the chat. Okay, let me see. So I'm gonna share screen and we'll begin with the presentation. So just give me a minute. There you go. Can everyone see my screen or not yet?
Yes.
Perfect. See. All right. I should go to the first one. Okay. So tonight's presentation, we're gonna have some time just to discuss about the path to citizenship, meaning what does it take to become a citizen in the United States? What are the steps, the requirements? Hopefully we can answer some questions. And I promise you, if you have a question and we don't have the answer, we will do our homework and get back to you, okay? So just a little bit about HIAS. HIAS Immigration and Citizenship has been serving our immigrant community for many, many years, more than 100 years. We have our main location for legal services in Skokie, but we also have like satellite offices in Lake Zurich and Palatine. However, across the city, we have one office in downtown and some offices close to like the, that's North Park area, around that area as well. We are recognized by the Department of Justice. That's why we're able to be a nonprofit that provides legal services, advice, and other services. The main languages we speak, actually, I should update this slide and put a few more in here because our staff has been growing exponentially. But we do have Spanish speakers with the staff, Russian, Ukrainian, English. We have Dari, Pashto, Rohingya. We have quite a few. So sometimes it's easier to answer like really heavy questions or to have somebody who speaks our language of origin. So this is an advantage of having a diverse work space. So some of the services we provide is, of course, we support with different applications like citizenship or adjustment of status to get your green card. We help with getting your work permits. We do DACA applications, renewals, and we do support with some assistance and fee waivers, medical disability waivers, family-based immigration petitions, and other programs and processes around these topics. So we're gonna start talking about naturalization. So what is this? Sometimes we can get confused with what is naturalization, what is citizenship, what is residency. So we'll explore this a little more. So naturalization is also known as citizenship. Okay, it's the process where, like, if you're a green card holder, now you can become a U.S. citizen. Okay. Our recommendation is, of course, you can do it on your own. You download your application, you fill it up, get all your documents and send it. But it's always good to have an extra set of eyes with some experience in the field. So we always recommend, like, get a hold of a DOJ recognized agency like HIAS, a nonprofit organization, or an immigration attorney. Sometimes maybe your case is a little more complex and may need the support of an attorney. Yeah, we always put this, be aware of scams. It's always good to go to the authorized websites and to make sure that you're getting the information, the resources, and working with the people that are authorized to work. Since we're state funded and we also have donors that support our services, we don't charge so much as a service fee per se. This is like a $60 plus what it costs to mail the documents to USCIS versus maybe what a lawyer can charge you, like $10,000 for helping you with naturalization or some of the immigration forms. Okay, this is important. Some people may not know that they're already US citizens. And by that, I mean, like, are your parents citizens of the United States? Were you born in the United States, but maybe you grew up in a different country? So if you have any of these questions, again, feel free to reach out to us. We can help you figure it out. But if that's the case, you won't need to file an N-400 application that is for, applying for citizenship. You will fill up an N-600 application that will certify that you are a citizen. Okay. So let me see how many people we have. About 10, 12 people. What do you think are the benefits to become a US citizen? Like, why would you like to become a US citizen, and what do you think are the benefits? Anybody can unmute and say anything. Nobody? They're shy today.
One thing I know, it's do not need visa to a lot of countries.
Exactly. Like, you will be able to get a US citizen, US passport, and you can travel more, right? There won't be as many restrictions when you travel. When you have your green card, you can only be so long outside of the country, right? So yeah, that's one. Another important one is something that happened just last month, right? It was the presidential elections. So that's another benefit. You can now, as a citizen, you can vote, right?
You can.
It's important. It's part of our rights, and it will be part of your benefits once you become a citizen. So you will have the right to vote. You can sponsor a family member to come into the United States. You will have more employment opportunities, like a lot of government positions and things will require you to be an US citizen. So you won't be able to get the job if you have a green card, but not the citizenship. You will be protected against deportation. We know that maybe you made a mistake and I don't know, you have to go to court or things like that. Having a green card, that puts you in risk depending of the crime or whatever, right? Of deportation, or you don't have to like be renewed. You need to be renewing your green card every so often. But if you have a citizenship, you can't be deported and you won't need to renew your citizenship. Once you have it, you have it. Again, the freedom to travel, as we discussed. and you will have access to public benefits. Yeah, it is true that as a green card holder or legal permanent resident, that's what LPR means, you can access to some of these public benefits, but it's more complicated. Okay. The next part is about eligibility. So who can apply? Who can become a citizen? What did you need to do? Or yeah, what are those steps, right? Like the basic things to become a citizen. You must be 18 years old. This is to apply, right? To fill out the M400 form and do all the process. Be a lawful permanent resident or green card holder. And you have to prove your continuous residency in the United States. So you may know they ask you for 5 years here in the United States. And the physical presence means that you can't live for more than, I believe it's 180 days total. So you could go 1 month to Mexico, 1 month to Canada, but you can't go 6 months to Mexico and 6 months to Canada because that will be more than 180 days and you won't be eligible. You will have to wait a few more years again. Okay, so you need to prove that, this is funny. Okay, that you have been living here and you will send your proof of address or your home address, and they ask you to be there for about 3 months at least before you apply. And then if for any reasons you need to move, you can always go into your online account and update your information and put your new address. Another part, and this is very important, and in a little bit, Judy will share with us about the citizenship class, is you need to pass a test, okay? So I don't know how many people know how long, how short, how hard, or how easy this test may be, right? But there is a list of 100 questions about civics and history of the United States. They will be asking you some of them. They're not going to ask you the 100, but they can choose from those 100, any of them, right? You will have to pass an English speaking part of it, a reading section, and a writing section. We'll explore this part a little more in a minute. Good moral character. What this means is they just want to see that you're a good citizen, that you're a good human being, right? No crimes, or they do background checks and things like this to prove that you're behaving well in society. And understand and accept the oath of allegiance. Again, we'll go deeper in some of these. Any questions until here?
Will you talk more about exceptions?
Yes, we'll touch a little bit on the exceptions based on age and like medical waivers. Okay, but thank you for asking. And then when we talk about it, if you have specific questions, you can ask, and we'll share our contact information as well. Oh, I didn't realize it was the next one. Perfect. So hopefully this answered the question. So yes, there are some English exceptions, which means you can take the test in your language of choice, or based on age also you can get like a shorter version of the test. So instead of having to learn 100 questions, you can learn 20 and prepare for the test. So some of these exceptions mean that if you're 50 years old and have been living in the United States with a green card for 20 years, this is like the math part of USCIS. So if you want to screenshot, take a picture of this, or take notes, feel free. You can also find this information on the website. Okay, the other exception is if you're 55-year-old and have been an LPR or green card holder for 15 years. And the next one is if you're 65 years old and 20 years green card holder or lawful permanent resident. Okay. Oh, yes, and as a note, if you take the test in your language of choice, you will need an interpreter, okay? Because maybe the officer that is gonna conduct the interview doesn't speak that specific language. And this is the other exception. This is a little more detailed. It's not like I can go to the doctor and get a note that says I need to take an easier test, right? Or I have this condition that it will be better for me if I take an easier test, right? There are very specific steps and conditions for this, but some people has gone through some kind of like physical or like some trauma or things like that that maybe cause them to be impaired somehow or have some kind of disability that won't allow them to take this type of test. So in that case, you need to go to like the doctor. Is a specific doctor that has to be authorized to do this. They are licensed to practice the U.S. Form, test and form, and they will fill up a form that is an N648 form, explaining pretty much to USCIS your condition and why you will benefit from an easier test. Was your question about any of these topics? Okay, I'll keep going, and then if anybody has any questions. So yes, with the medical exception again, you can get reasonable accommodations, or again, maybe a more simple version of the test. Things like that. Maybe they will give you extra time for the test if you're able to complete it, but it just takes you a little longer. And this, I need to double check this, but there is a specific part on the form where you can fill out that you may need accommodations. Again, this is the form. Yeah, this is pretty much what we talk about. Of course, and they ask you to be honest about your medical status and conditions to take the test. Again, let's talk about good moral character, a little more details about this. And they will take into consideration mostly your last 5 years, meaning in the last 5 years, you didn't commit any crimes, you were not arrested, you didn't get arrested for a DUI, driving under the influence, or any kind of like bigger crimes that will prove that you may not have like good moral character for USCIS. Let's just continue with the application. That is the trickiest part. Okay, as I mentioned, the form that we need to fill out to become citizens is the N400 application. You can go to the USCIS website and download the form. If you wanna, take a look at the questions, you can view them online. But we always recommend to go into the website and download the most recent form, especially because they just updated this form a few months ago. Before, it used to be 20 pages with a lot of questions, a lot of places and lines and things to fill out, and now it's a little more simple. So yeah, they updated it on April 1st of this year. So just make sure that's the version you're filling out if you're doing it on your own. Okay, so the application is going to ask you all kind of questions. It's similar to when you fill out the form to get your green card. Those type of questions like, basic contact information, your history, like address history, work history. And again, keep in mind that they will ask you about your last 5 years. So where have you been living the last 5 years? And you need to be as detailed as possible, meaning you say the year, the month, and the day you live in this place until this day. And then you move to the new address and you list that address with year, month, and day. So even if it's outside of the country, or which if it's 5 years, that's what they ask you to be in the country. So hopefully not. They ask you about employment or schooling. So where have you been working these last 5 years prior to filling out the application? There is a part where they ask you if anyone helped you to fill out this. They ask you about other specific things regarding like your background check, pretty much. Again, like crimes or encounters with police. Let me see here. Okay. This is important as well. They ask you about taxes. So have you been filing taxes? Have you been doing all these things that also proves your good moral character, but also just allow USCIS to see that you have been doing everything legally, and that you, like, for example, in this, we talk about war crimes or military units or things like that. They always ask if you're affiliated or if you have help or participate in any of these things. Any questions until here? Again, I know it's a lot of information.
How
And
far should you report all your military, for how many years back?
sorry, can you repeat that again?
For how many years back you have to report all your like military services, the charges or everything?
If you ever did, well, this is more like they want to see if you were like part of any groups that maybe were against the law, like paramilitary, not just military. Of course, for male, sometimes they ask if you ever served like for your country or things like that. But this is mostly like, let's say, were you part of a communist group ever, or were you part of in the prior application before April of this year, they were a little more specific, and they will even ask things as, did you participate in the Nazi season, or like, support the Nazi group or things like that. Let me see. Oh, and this part about, this is very important. And is they ask you about the Constitution and if you support the Constitution of the United States, if you're willing to bear arms, and that way it will be like supporting, like in war, the United States. And I understand that this can be a little bit challenging for some people, based on maybe our religion or maybe our convictions that are not specifically based on religion or whatever. So there are some religious exemptions, but for the most part, they will ask you to say yes to all of this. Yes, when we're filling out the application, there may be words that we're not familiar with. Okay, maybe because they're too specific to certain groups or certain areas that we've never encountered, or they're not part of our day-to-day conversations, right? So just make sure, these are some examples, mostly from the last application, but some of these are also present in the new application. So just make sure that when you fill out the yes and no section, that is a very extensive section of questions of like, have you ever done this? Have you ever be part of this? Have you ever committed this type of crime? Things like that. Just make sure that you know and you understand what those words are. Okay, you can look them up in the dictionary, on Google Translate, or anything, but it is important that you're familiar with these questions. Okay. This is also another big part of applying, right? We all know that USCIS asks us for a lot of evidence and documents. So here we list some of the most common, most important documents that you have to send with your application, okay? So you will have to send a picture or a copy of your green card. Normally, like, let's say at our agency, we like to send an extra ID, and they will ask you probably for another ID. So you can send your driver's license, or if you have a passport, you can send your passport, or even state ID, things like that. They also, we can also send like the social security copy if you're married, or if you're applying through marriage as well, like your green card was through marriage or whatever, they ask you questions about marriage, and we like to submit the certificates for this. Passports and travel documents, I think most people are familiar with the I-94. That is that little document that says I've been in and out of the country, or this is my A number. We sent a copy of this. If you have younger children, we may need child support payments if it's applicable to your case. Tax returns, selective service registration, and then if you have any criminal records, those will be needed as well. Again, a lot of these are based on the specific case, but these are some of the most common documents you may need. Okay, they normally, for the green card picture, the copy we send, we like to send, and they will need both sides. So that's important to keep in mind. If you need the medical waiver, then make sure to send this document too, which is the N648, with your application. And when they changed to the new application a few months ago, they also updated the filing fees. So now, if you want to apply online, the cost of this is $710. But if you want to mail it and like fill out and prepare your envelope and send it to USCIS, like physically through mail, then you will have to pay $760. Okay, so the difference is like $50 based on your needs, pretty much, like, and what you feel more comfortable with. If for any reasons you need some support with this, there are some waivers that we can apply for. These are based on your income and the income of the household. So if, let's say, we apply and USCIS says, yes, we'll take it, and they grant you the waiver, you will be paying half of this fee. I think it was $380 for the reduced fee. Yes, once you complete the form and you send it, again, you can do it online or do it by mail. And you have to make sure to include the copy, I mean, the full form, the M400 form, all the pages, sign all the, when you need to sign, right? And attach all the documents that they ask you to send, but also any support for evidence that you consider is necessary for your case. Normally, after that, we send the form, we send everything, and USCIS will take sometimes days, sometimes weeks, sometimes more, to respond to you and say, thank you. Well, they don't say thank you, but they will say, we received your application, okay? So with your email address, you can create a new USCIS account and check your case. But normally, they will send a physical notice to your home address, and you can also sign up for text and emails, well, text and notifications from USCIS online. Okay, so next steps. what happened after we file and we send everything, right? After USCIS tells you we received your application, the next notification most likely is gonna be your appointment for biometrics or fingerprints. So they will send you a piece of paper with your information and the date and times that you have to go to a specific location to get your fingerprints done. And often they take pictures that day, so make sure you feel comfortable and look nice for the picture too. But normally they will do the fingerprints and you have to be there that day, that time. If it doesn't work for any reason for you, or like maybe you have an emergency at the last moment, you need to 100% of the time you need to still go commit to the date and time they gave you, but you can always call and reschedule if needed. After you go to the appointment for biometrics and they take your fingerprints and stuff, they normally take a long time to reply to you again, but they will send you another notification or a notice for your interview, okay? So again, it will be very similar where they will tell you a date and time where you have to go for your naturalization interview or for your citizenship test. We can talk about what to expect at the interview, but before, let me check really quick. Okay, after we talk about this, I would ask Judy to share with us about the class and the expectations, because let me tell you, these classes can be huge, like significant. It can really make a difference for you and how you feel, how prepared you are for the interview. Okay, not just about the knowledge and the 100 questions and having the right answers, but also it will be preparing you during the class. You will get more comfortable with your answers, more familiar with the words. You will know what to expect a little more. So the day you go to your interview, the officer will call your name, you walk in with them, there will be probably some small talk about the weather, the traffic, or whatever it is. They will place you under oath, meaning you will have to be honest, you're sworn to be honest, and answer honestly to every question. And then they will have the copy of the M400, they will review it, probably ask some questions about your address or contact information or some basic information about you. A lot of times it just depends also on the officer how many questions they ask from the M400 and based on your case. They're trying to see also how much English or like what the level of English and understanding is, so they know what to expect when they're conducting the test. And after this, they will proceed with the reading, writing test, and the civic test, which is the 100 questions. Okay, so we have the privilege to have Judy with us tonight. So if you can maybe introduce yourself, Judy, and just talk a little bit about the citizenship class, how long it is, what they can expect if they join our class.
Okay, thank you, Audrey. I am Judy Oblowski, and I've been teaching citizenship for, I don't want to tell you how long, because then you'll know how old I am. But I've been teaching a long time, and I've helped many, many, many people pass their citizenship test. So what you will need to know is when you go for your interview, there are 100 questions in civics, and you need to know 6 of those questions. But we don't know what the officer is going to ask. So we will be studying all 100 questions. You do have a little leeway. You may get 4 wrong. So that's pretty good. So you may be asked up to 10 questions. And this is not in any order. It's up to the officer which way he or she does it. But you will also be asked to read one sentence and write one sentence. And again, we don't know what the officer is going to ask, but we will be receiving a list of vocabulary words that these sentences are made from, and we'll be studying those. And then the rest of the interview is on your application. And this is the English portion of your interview. And this is the part that takes the longest. The officer can ask anything that is on your application. So I believe this one is like 15 or 16 pages. So anything in there is fair game. The officer can ask any of the questions on there. Ida, are you asking a question? You are muted if you are. No?
Hey, I have a question.
Okay.
We got green card in 2019, but we went to India for a year in between. In 2021, we went in 2021 April, I guess, and then came back in March. That will be about 11 months. So, are we eligible for green card? For citizenship now, or do we have to wait for a few more years?
I will refer to Audrey. As far as I know, you have to begin again. Is that true?
Right.
Sorry?
Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
Go ahead, Audrey.
Okay, so there are some exceptions, like let's say there was an emergency, or for example, during COVID, a lot of people got stuck in other countries. So you're saying it was 2019 when you got your green card, so technically it's been 5 years, so you can apply for citizenship. Again, they ask for no more than 180 days or 6 months out of the country. If you spent 11 months, that means it may not qualify. So what happens is like you have to wait until you again have your 5 years and no more than 180 days out of the country, if that makes sense. However, if there was like an emergency, for example, I had a client who it was a medical emergency. It was like when COVID closed the airports and things, so she was stuck in another country for a few months, but after that, her mom got very, very sick, and she was an only child. So she was the one providing all the support to her mom, so there are cases where if there is a very good valid reason, they may make an exception, but I'm like stretching it a little bit. Like the recommendation for sure is the 180 days no more and the 5 years that you have been here. And it's a lot of these decisions are like up to the officer, to be honest.
Okay, got it. Yeah, we actually stayed back because of COVID. There was a Delta COVID wave running during that time in India, and we couldn't travel because of that. So we had to, flights were running, but we stayed back because of the COVID threat that was going on.
Okay, so let's say you take Judy's class and then you decide to apply for your citizenship and you want us to support you with the process. So what we do is we will gather as much information and documentations for your 5 years residency, proving that your intention was not to stay there, right? It was an extraordinary circumstance that it was COVID. So when we file your application with USCIS, we will also submit evidence for this and like a written, like a letter explaining what happened, the days, everything, like being, very detailed and submitted. And hopefully there won't be any issues. Sometimes they request more evidence, like, can you send me a copy of this and that, or, anything like that. But COVID is a very common issue for the people who have been applying since 2019 and probably for the next 2 years still.
Yeah, okay, got it. Yep, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Judy.
Thank you. So just finishing up with the application. I did say that the officer can ask anything at all in the application. And in part 9, there are 37 yes/no questions. and some of the words there are a little challenging. So we will be going over those words also, along with everything else that's on the application. The officer may ask all 37 questions, or they may ask a few. It's really up to the officer what he or she would like to do on that. The class is a 12-week class, and it begins January 14th, which is a Tuesday, like today, from 7 to 8:45. And we will cover everything you need to know to pass your interview. Are there any questions?
Is the class virtual or?
Oh, that's a very good point. Yes, it is virtual Zoom, and we found that it really works well because if you're working, you don't have to worry, come home and scramble, have your dinner, and then you have to go out the door. This way you are there.
Right. And since the class is in January, you don't have to go in like a 1-degree weather outside
That's true.
to your class.
Very true.
How do we register for the class?
Okay, so Corey put on our chat, thank you, Corey, a link to register. So you just have to click on the link and you fill out the registration. And we will get a copy of your answers. And then Judy, who will be teaching the class, she's gonna call you in a few days after you submit after you register, and she calls you. And for the class, it's free, completely free for you. Thank you to Vernon Public Library, because they are the ones sponsoring a big part of the materials that you will be receiving. So yes, you also get some materials. You will get a textbook to support the process, and you will be working with Judy and the other students with this textbook where you can find the 100 questions. You will have some copies. You will receive a tote bag full of like the book, the textbook, a copy of the M400 application, so you can write notes and write questions in there. You will get the 100 questions. You also get a little pen and a pad so you can take notes and things like that. So yeah, just please click on the link. If for any reason you couldn't click on the link during this presentation, I'm gonna share my information, and Corey already shared it on the chat. But you can email me or Judy or Corey, or if you couldn't find any email or any links, you can go to the Vernon Public Library and ask about the citizenship classes, and they will guide you too, okay? But it is important that you register. Registrations are open now, and we receive 15 students. So if that's something you would like to do, please just fill out the registration.
Is the registration individual? For example, in my case, I would be joining with Susanna.
Correct. So each one of you will fill out a different registration, because we need to have like the information for contact information and like just the information for each one of you, registrations for each one of you. But it's okay if you both join from the same device.
Be aware that it is a 12-week course. It
Correct.
doesn't mean, it doesn't mean if you hadn't, like some students will have, they've applied for their citizenship months ago and they're waiting for an interview, and those students end up passing midway during the course, and then they no longer have to continue. But for all newcomers, it is a full 12-week course.
Yeah,
Audrey, there was a question. There were a few questions from Valerie and Dennis. One was in regards to whether or not on the N648 child support receipts need to be translated if they're in a language other than English.
That's a really good question. Normally with like official documents such as birth certificates, marriage certificates, things like this, we will have to do the translation into English. I want to say yes, we will need to translate those, but since they are received, I will have to double check that maybe there will be another option where like we can prove these are the receipts for this is what it means, but there will be some sort of translation at the end of the day for this receipt.
Okay, and then Dennis and Valerie also asked how much it costs to apply for citizenship, which you did answer in the presentation, but they had another question that was in regards to separate and multiple addresses for when they moved. Like, does each address when they move have to be on the application?
Yes.
Correct. Yes. So just just to recap, yes, the application, if you file by mail physically and you send it to USCIS, is $760. If you do it online, it's $710. Okay. And yes, the address, you have to list every single one of the addresses where you have been living for the last 5 years. You could have moved once or not at all, or 10 times in the last 5 years, and you will still have to list all the addresses with the date, like specific year, month, and day of when you were living in those places. I have clients that live in a place for 3 weeks, and they still have to list that place because they were moving from one place to another and they had to rent for a few days.
Mhm.
So yes.
And
I
then
think-
Sarisha asked if there will be a recording and if there's any way to get to see this meeting and the slides. So Sarisha, I can tell you that this is being recorded, and the recording will be uploaded on the Vernon Area Library YouTube page, probably within the week. So you can go back and you can review this presentation. And then I can't answer the slide presentation because that's Audrey.
That's a really good question. I don't see why not.
I mean, it should be here in the recording. I mean,
Right, like when
it
you
might
do
be
this,
enough. It might be all that you need.
right,
Is to
and then
just
you can take notes.
rewatch the presentation because the slides are here.
Correct.
Yep, it should be okay. Thank you.
I see Sanjay, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have one question. So I was looking that link, right? You gave it here for registration, 12 weeks plus, right? If I register first one, so my question, if I register for entire 12 weeks course, so is there any additional fees I need to pay? I know library gives, there is no fees, right? So do I need to pay additional fees for this, for 12 weeks class?
For the class?
Yeah, for class.
No, the class is completely free for the students who fill out the registration and go to the library and pick up the tote bag. That's the only thing you will have to do, is once you register, you have to wait for a phone call, and then we'll share some details for you to go to the library and pick up your materials. The class is completely free, no cost, no fees for you. We only ask the commitment for you to join us every week during the class.
Okay, yeah, got it. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And then Ida asked if you can explain the 50-15 exception.
Yes. So again, like there are some exceptions based on your age and how long you have been a legal permanent resident or how long you had a green card. So if you're 50 years old, let me see, I can go back to that slide as well. But yeah, if you're 50-year-old and you have been a legal permanent resident or you had your green card, sorry everybody, I'm going back on the presentation. Oops, there you go. So yes, if you're 50 years old and you have been 20 years legal permanent resident, meaning you had your green card for 20 years already and you're over 50, okay? So 50 years old and you had your green card for 15 years. Or if you're 65 years old and you had your green card for 20 years. I hope that
So what's the
answers.
exception? Is it easier exam or what?
Oh, yes, thank you. So there's some accommodations for this.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
yeah, like the less questions too. That's an option. So instead of taking the test based on 100 questions that are the civics and history questions, you only have to study 20 and the officer will ask you from those 20. In some cases, if it's needed, you can also have an interpreter in the room.
And what are those cases, do you know?
Again, like it has to, like you will have to fulfill some of the requirements on age and how long you have your green card and things like that. But if you're capable of, if you can't speak and communicate in English, they will just ask you to do it in English. But if for some reason you may need an interpreter, we can, it's like a case by case type of thing. It's not as common and it's not as recommended. It's very strict as well.
Audrey,
Yes.
Arshini has asked if the class is held every year. I can tell you, Arshini, that the Vernon Area Public Library offers this class every January. This year, January 16th through April 1st, but it can also, students can also take the class at other local libraries, usually in the area, and Audrey probably knows the names of the other libraries, or Judy.
Correct. So we try to host classes pretty much every month there is a class going on, but normally it's like every 2 months is when you can register. So with Vernon Library, we're doing like a winter spring class that goes like January, February, March. Then there will be one on Indian Trails in March, like February, March, April, May. And then there will be a Palatine. So yeah, like I would say every other month there is a class that is starting. And then we host a summer class with Judy again, with Arlington Heights Library. So on our website, you can find this information. We're working on updating maybe 2 or 3 classes at the time so people know when they're happening. But as of today, we just posted this class that is starting in January, and then the next class with Indian Trails.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you so much, everyone, for participating and asking. All right, so just to conclude a little bit, after you go to your interview and you take the test and everything, the officer will provide you with a notice of the results and the outcome, like meaning did you pass, or maybe you didn't, or maybe you just failed on some parts, okay? Sometimes they won't give you a notice. A lot of times it's because the officer may not be authorized and they need a supervisor to come and say yes. But if you fail, let's say you answer all the questions, you did the writing test, but maybe you fail on the reading side of it, they will give you like another chance to retake the part that you failed in about 60 or 90 days, but only once. And then the notice of decisions, once you know, they will explain to you if you were denied, this is why. Most of the time they do that. You can appeal if maybe you feel like it was unfair or like it really is wrong. You can appeal this decision, or they will give you a notice of approval, and then you can go to your oath ceremony and celebrate. And you can, well, during COVID, they were doing like very small, there was not like a big ceremony, but normally it is a big ceremony where everyone who passed the citizenship test come and become like officially to the public a U.S. citizen. It is important that you go to your oath ceremony. It's not like you went to your interview, you passed, and then you forgot about the rest of the process. You have to take all the steps up to the end, do the oath, and just go through the whole process, okay? Again, this is the link for USCIS if you need to change your address, like let's say we submit your form or you submit the M400 form and then you move, then you have to use this link to update your address. Some helpful resources, again, the USCIS website. You will have my email or my phone number. So if for any reason I don't pick up, please leave a voicemail with your information and I'll get back to you. And here is my email. So again, if you have any questions or if you would like to attend the class, you want to register and you couldn't use the link that Corey put in the chat, just send me an email and I will be happy to reply with the link for the registration. I will tell you, I'm a green card holder myself. I'm a legal permanent resident, and I will have to take my citizenship test probably next year, hopefully, right? And I'm probably gonna be joining one of Judy's class as an student, not just as coordinating, because I truly see how much this has helped many students in the process. So once again, I want to thank everyone and just make sure, are there any final questions?
Yeah, I have a question, Audrey.
Please.
For example, how many receipts if you pay each month for last 5 years? Each month, 5 years, if you pay child support for each month?
That's a really good.
How many receipts should I provide, for example?
That's a really good question. Judy, do you have any insight on that specifically?
I think it just asks, do you provide support?
Right.
And it
And
doesn't,
then sometimes if there is more, like, let's say, when they will ask for more specific, like, receipts and things like that, is if you were sued, you know, for child neglect and abuse, and because of that you have to provide, sometimes we use the receipts and more specific information to prove that you did.
it just asks, do you provide support? And as the name of the child and information such as the date of birth.
For example,
Judy.
if like for last year, I provide for last year, it's enough, you think, or what?
Yeah, so if it's just a form and you're filling up and you say yes, it's just asking you if you did or you didn't, and for who, like which kids or which children or child you did, right? But if for any reason, let's say it was a core decision that you have to provide this child support and things like that, then you may need receipts. We like to attach some of them for, like, as a proof, but USCIS may ask you also as a just evidence. But if it's just answering the test, the form, sorry, the M400 application, then it's just a yes or no question. Thank you, Judy, for checking that. And then the information of your children who would you provide support for.
I mean, in the interview, should I bring receipts with me?
No, it won't be like necessary. I mean, we like to gather as much information as possible and to have it like available if anything happened to. And if USCIS needs any more evidence, they normally send a notice, like a notification to you saying like, we require more evidence. Can you please provide this? And
Before interview.
yeah,
Okay, got it. Thank you.
absolutely. Anybody else?
All good.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate you joining, participating, putting your cameras on, asking questions. Sometimes I continue, Judy has been doing this for way longer than I have, and she has been teaching this for a long time. And I have been working on this for a few years, and I still find questions that I was like, I
Sure.
never even thought about this. So we appreciate also your feedback, your questions and stuff, because it just, at the end of the day, just help us also to grow and to be able to provide a better service. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. Again, that's my email and my phone number if you have any questions or if you need anything. And thank you so much, Vernon Library. Corey, thank you for everything you did to make this happen and for just the links and being always on top of everything. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Judy, again for your time and your commitment with the class, with the students, with the program. Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Audrey and Judy, for being here and for providing everyone with this very valuable information. For those who want additional details on how to obtain citizenship, please feel free to reach out to HIAS or Audrey directly. Thank you for joining us this evening, and I hope you'll join us in January for the citizenship preparation.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank
Have a great
you.
holiday,
you.
everyone,
Thank
however you
you.
celebrate it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciated your help.
All right, take care, everyone.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Judy and Courtney.
Thank you, Audrey.